The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Get up to $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at Underdog Fantasy with the promo code NBA SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Friday afternoon, June 20th, around 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Reichel, joined by Lonte Smith. Together, we're going to break down the final game of the NBA season. No matter who wins, it is Game 7 time of the NBA Finals. So we're going to break down that game. Not taking place tonight, not taking place on Saturday, but taking place on Sunday night, so 8 p.m. Eastern. Keep that in mind. So the game will not be taking place for a couple of days, but still going to get it out of the way for the sake of the show. Now, once again, we get into the actual breakdown, I introduced him before. Lonte, how's it going with you? Feels a bit weird having a Game 7 in the finals, which has not happened in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Was it the Golden State Cleveland series? That was the last Game 7?
I believe so. I'm trying to think of another Game 7 that we've had, and truth is, there have been a lot of lopsided finals since then.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm glad we got a Game 7. Two favorite words in sports. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be fun. Of course, we are going to have to recap what happened in Game 6, even though I'm sure half the people stopped watching at halftime. But the point is, we do have to at least discuss maybe the series as a whole so far. But props to Indiana for kind of shocking everybody, because I feel like most people going in, including ourselves, thought that OKC would win the series by now. I don't think anybody thought it would go 7. And the Pacers have been feisty. They've been able to respond to adversity, and they were able to force a Game 7. So we'll get into a bit more detail in a second. For that, though, a reminder that you can also check out the college experience, because college football team previews are back, and Kobe and Mac are previewing every FBS college football team. Every team. It's a lot of teams. You don't want to miss out. Check out the college experience for some college football breakdowns. Anyway, getting back into what happened in Game 6, it was an absolute ass-kicking in favor of Indiana, as they led by as many as 31 points. They dominated, and you eventually saw OKC bench all the starters for the entire fourth quarter. Indiana did basically the same, except for Miles Turner, which made me laugh because he was the only starter who was actually out there. But either way, Indiana got off to a bit of a slow start, and then after that happened, I think they were down 8-2. They destroyed them. They led after every quarter. The game was not close. They led by 30 after 3 quarters, and the game was over, as they eventually did win by 17 points. Thunder scored a season-low 91 points. They were really bad on both ends of the floor. Saw Siakam play well. He had 16 and 13. Halliburton's stats weren't that great, but I thought he looked pretty good. Only played 23 minutes. We know that he was battling the injury, and you know what? He looked fine. 14 points, 5 assists, 1 rebound, 2 steals. Once again, not the greatest stats per se, but he only played 23 minutes, and I thought he actually moved pretty well on the court. As for the Thunder, you saw Shea have a pretty poor game, 21 points in basically 3 quarters, 8 turnovers, along with 2 assists. And J-Dub had a finals worst negative 40 in plus-minus. So he didn't really do much either. Chet was terrible offensively. Felt like nobody on the Thunder actually showed up for the game. Caruso was a negative 33 in 22 minutes off the bench. It was ugly. I'll let you go first, though, because Indiana, in a must-win game, dominated. And it looked like OKC knew they had Game 7 in their back pocket, because they just did not have the intensity.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up perfectly. Both things are true. I mean, you can't fake desperation. It's hard to meet that level, and I thought OKC did a good job of that initially. They forced the Pacers to call the timeout. The first timeout, I think it were up 10-2, and then it kind of shifted. They had like a possession. They had like back-to-back possessions where it was like a turnover. Shea looked horrible. Or actually, Shea looked horrible in this entire game, to be quite honest. And, I mean, Indiana the intensity just went up a different level, and OKC couldn't match it. And again, like you said, they played like they had a Game 7 at home. I thought Indiana imposed their real defense. I thought their defense was so impressive as far as, getting up on the screen. They were forcing OKC into things that they don't normally do. They were doubling Shea on the post. But I mean, after that first quarter, it was kind of an onslaught. And I thought OKC they could not match that type of intensity or that energy. And credit to the Pacers, man. Credit to them for proving everybody wrong, including myself. They've had a hell of a playoffs, a hell of a last 2 years, actually. Man, they're one game away. they're one game away from doing something that nobody believed they could do. Rick Carlisle's actually been in this position before, so he knows, what it takes to kind of slay I guess a dynasty type of team. So I mean, Dagnall's got to be ready. He talked about it being disappointing and how they have to, it was pretty much the same stuff, just energy level. They weren't making some shots, and obviously you can't do a ton whenever your bench. I think they only had like 2 points at the half, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, but obviously those guys will play better at home. I know we'll talk about Game 7 in a bit, but credit to the Pacers, man. They forced a Game 7, and they did so in dramatic fashion. I mean, really, probably one of the best halves of basketball I've seen from anybody in the playoffs in the past year or so.
Yeah, felt like it was a domination, just complete one-way traffic, especially that really second and third quarter as they just dominated. They won the second quarter by 19 points.
Yeah.
OKC's offense could do nothing for almost the entire game. The issue OKC's running into, this team really can't shoot from the outside, which we kind of already knew, but it's been multiple games in a row where they just cannot find their outside shot. And you're looking at OKC surviving as they were able to beat the Pacers in Game 4, despite making, I think it was less than 5 3-pointers the entire game. So OKC needs some guys to step up. We saw Wiggins step up in Game 5, and then we couldn't find him in Game 6. So as you mentioned before, role players tend to play better at home. We'll see what happens there. For Indiana, Siakam was very good. I thought everyone played well. Nembhard was on fire early in the game as well. But it was just a great overall team effort. Obi had 20 points off the bench. He was great. Yep. Mathurin had a birthday game of 2 points, and that didn't matter. So either way. Point is, though, it was just a very good overall performance by a team that needed it at home in a must-win game. For OKC, just to ask you here, because I do think there is a bit of a problem that has been present with OKC, which is, one, not really knowing what their best lineup is throughout the course of the series. It does feel like Dagnall is trying to kind of play the hot hand while also using his best players at the same time, and that doesn't work. He's kind of mixing and matching, and it feels like there's no consistency with the rotations with his teams, and I have noticed that Carlisle can do the same thing a little bit, but there at least is some hierarchy in place. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but when it comes to the closing group guys for OKC, do they actually know who their closing group is, or does it vary based on the hot hand? Because it feels like OKC has shown so many different lineups in the series, and the rotations have been so inconsistent. I do wonder if it's affecting the rhythm of some guys when you don't know how many minutes you're going to play.
Yeah, I think it's. I think you can say that for both sides, and I think you brought it up, especially with Dagnall. Like, he's kind of just like trying to find the right pieces, and that's a credit to how well Indiana's played them. And if you flip it on the opposite side, it's a credit to how OKC's played them defensively. So they're kind of scrambling, trying to figure things out. But again, I think it just comes down to like your home road splits. I mean, you see what they've done at home, and you see what they've done on the road. If you just compare those numbers, just the role players, you don't have to even go with Shea or Jalen Williams. Like, you just look at the role players and how well they play at home versus on the road. It's pretty much telling on both sides of the only consistent play. I mean, TJ's played he's played one good game on the road and then, a couple at home. Like, a lot of his stuff has been at home, and I think that's just the way the series has gone. I do think that Dagnall will have to just scrap the Cason Wallace and Isaiah Hartenstein minutes. I would just scrap those all together, and because Hartenstein is getting abused on the pick and rolls, Cason's, I mean, he's been okay, but like defensively, but just offensively, just couldn't hit a shot outside of Game 5, and maybe he'll hit a shot or two here. So I would expect maybe a little bit longer leash because they're at home, and maybe some of those shots will fall in. I don't really get the Kenrich Williams minutes either. I would go with a heavy dose of Caruso, just that small ball lineup where they came out for Game 7 for Denver. I would expect to see a lot more of that lineup versus what we've been seeing on a game-to-game basis. Same on the Pacers side. I mean, they generally play 9-10 guys, but again, I think it just depends on the flow. The Pacers are more susceptible to playing those 9 or 10 guys for longer stretches than OKC. But I do trust OKC's players because they're at home. That's simple and plain. I mean, they're at home. They're going to play better. That crowd is going to be insane. Pacers, haven't faced a game 7. They haven't faced a ton of adversity until we saw a game. They tied the series. It was 2-2, and then they went back to OKC and they lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're in another situation. I mean, the pressure's still on OKC. Don't get me wrong, but again, the Pacers haven't been in this situation, whereas OKC has. So I think that's a little bit of advantage to OKC and Dagnall, of course, knowing that you got the better team and the home court advantage. So I think it's a credit to both of these defenses of making these head coaches like go deeper into their bags and forcing them to do things they don't want to do, or forcing them to do things that they like want to do, but it's just not the right thing to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. I do think I have to at least talk about one other guy in OKC. And for the record, Miles Turner has also been really bad, but I'm a lot lower on Miles Turner than most people, as you know. I got to talk about Chet. Because at least Turner, even though his shooting has been abysmal the entire series, the Pacers have multiple guys who can step up and have 15-plus point games where there's less pressure on Turner to be an immediate impact scorer on this team, even though you're thinking on the top of your head, he's probably the third best guy or the third guy you'd be hoping for. But you have other guys who could step up. And I feel like Indiana has the ability to deal with bad performances from Turner and get by anyway. For OKC, Chet has been atrocious the entire series. He had like one good half in one of the earlier games when he had a double-double. I think that was in Game 4. Besides that, he's been an absolute mess. And it feels like it's not even a Miles Turner situation where he's bricking open shots, which, I mean, once again, I thought OKC would live with it. But Turner is taking shots that are within his normal, I'd say, style of play. I don't know what Chet's actually doing. It feels like a lot of Chet's shot attempts are him driving to the basket with no plan whatsoever and just chucking something up at the rim. And it feels like Chet right now is either, I'd say, struggling with the pace of the game, maybe mentally. It's the moment, who knows? But it feels like Chet and Turner, despite each of them having bad series, it feels like Chet is way more out of control than Turner is. And I feel like that's something I have to mention. You want to talk about Chet for a second? Because it has not gotten any better as the series has gone on. You were kind of hoping after Game 4, he got punked in Game 3, and Miles Turner destroyed him in that fourth quarter. And then Chet turned it around. He was great in Game 4, and he's been terrible ever since again. So I want to ask you what the story is with Chet, because I was kind of hoping he would turn a corner, and instead he's done the opposite. He's regressed again. What are your thoughts on Chet in the series? What's the story?
Yeah, so two things. I think Chet is a lot better whenever he is just free-flowing and not thinking. Whenever he has to take more than, 3 or 4 dribbles to get to his spot. I think what you said was spot on as far as him, not knowing what he wants to do. But you can see in his good games whenever he's just not thinking and it's just flowing, like he's getting the ball off the swing and he's shooting. He's not like hesitating to shoot it, or if he has the driving lane, he's going to the lane. And I think a lot of his success is predicated on the success of SGA and J-Dub. Like whenever they're able to find him in certain spots and where he doesn't have to self-create a ton, I think he's a lot more efficient that way. I thought some of his shots were rushed. Some of his decision-making was rushed. Too many just over-dribbling, going to the lane out of control. And, I mean, I'm not as tough on him. He has been bad, but I think sometimes OKC will go away from him really, really, like, for a long extended period of time. Like they will go away from him. I think after Game 1 one of those games, the second game, I think he was playing really well in that first half. I think he had almost a double-double in the first half. He was getting to his spots. He was hitting threes, and it kind of just went away from him. And that's typically what they do in the second half, especially whenever Shea is on the court with him, because when he comes back in, he's on the lineup with Shea. He's not on the court with J-Dub when they take their risks. So I think they got to get him a little bit more involved. It's just not even shot attempts, just getting him in the flow of touching the ball, maybe getting off a screen or two and getting there. But I think one thing that he can control is like defensively. I thought he's not been as good defensively as he was early on in the playoffs. So I think he has to be better there, protecting the rim. And a lot of that probably has to do with Hartenstein not being able to play in this playoffs. Usually, you have Hartenstein who's in the post and dealing with the bruising, and Chet can kind of play the dunker and just roam. And he can't do that here now that he's playing the 5 more with a smaller lineup. So I think that's taking a little bit of a toll on him. But Yeah, he has to be. He has to be better for sure. But I think OKC can do a little bit better job of getting him in spots to where he doesn't have to think as much, just kind of a one read and go. Because whenever he is with most young players, like we saw J-Dub was like this last year. He just was over dribbling. He was overpassing. Like he didn't know what he wanted to do. But Chet has shown when he makes his mind up and he's going straight downhill or he's shooting a jump shot, it's pretty effective. So I think it's twofold. I think he has to be better, obviously, and I think OKC has to do a better job of just keeping him in rhythm, not necessarily with shot attempts, but just flow of the game.
Yeah, I think I can get behind that too, but I've just been so disappointed by Chet in the series. J-Dub stepped up. He had a couple monster games. He had the 40-point game too. I've been waiting for Chet to have at least a game that is, I don't want to say on the same level as Jalen Williams.
That's not who he is.
He's on his game, but you know what I'm trying to say. I was hoping it'd be a bit more impactful on a regular basis.
I get that.
And it's not even a matter of Indiana kind of game planning him out of it. It feels like he's in his own head at this point. And you mentioned before that Hartenstein's been really bad in the series, and you're right. So you figure without Hartenstein being impactful, you would assume Chet would embrace the bigger role and you would pick up the slack. But he hasn't done that. And I feel like that's a serious problem that the Thunder have run into, is that their front court duo have been really bad. They could handle one of them being bad, but both of them underachieving has been a serious problem. Mm-hmm. And that is one area that the Pacers have kind of thrived in, is that even with Turner struggling, they've been using Siakam and Toppin together, and it's worked out. They kind of invented a new front court to use, and it's been working. As for the Thunder, you are using Chet or Hartenstein constantly, and whoever's on the court's been really bad. I think that's kind of a problem they run into, is the front court issues for them at this point in time. We'll get more into it in Game 7 in a second, but for Game 6, it wasn't really much to talk about because the Pacers, in a must-win game, showed up, had the urgency. Thought Halliburton looked fine. I know that his stats weren't amazing, but based on the reports going into the game,
good impact.
He looked a lot better than people thought.
Yeah, he did. Sure.
And the Thunder no-showed the entire game. So, yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it, man. I'm glad that he was able to play and be effective. But some of these people are getting, a little bit outlandish, saying that, oh, of course he should have played. But I mean, if he would have got hurt, you would have said he shouldn't have played. So it kind of goes. It's one of those things that can go either way. But it's just like I thought he was more effective in this game than he was in any other game. Like he was really good. Rick Carlisle did a good job of getting him off the ball, not having him initiate a ton, having Nembhard, Nesmith initiate a lot of the offense, have him kind of stand in the corner a little bit. But he was moving fine. I mean, he had a few offhand floaters with the left hand, and I thought he looked effective. So, I mean, I'm glad he's healthy. I'm glad he'll be able to get a couple extra days so we can get all parts, like all systems go for both sides. So I'm glad he's healthy. He looked really good, probably the best he's looked this series. But yeah, it's some concerns still that I have about them that we can get into later on.
Yeah. But before we get into Game 7, I'm going to segue into our sponsor, because we are brought to you by our sponsor, which is Circa. They're still hosting the Ultimate Fantasy Ball giveaway, so if you want to try to get in on the action, don't forget that they're giving away a great Ultimate Fantasy Football experience for a 12-person league that drafts in Vegas. Make sure you have VPs for your stay. Get a limo ride from the airport, 5K Tampa Stadium swim, and a hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. You could always get 15% off everything at the Circa properties with promo code SGP15. Enter the contest for free at sportsgamblers.com for Circa to enter the free contest. We're also brought to you by MyBookie, because they're the place for every sport. They have the NBA finals, they have the baseball cards, they have UFC, they have golf as well. They're also available on locations. Use crypto for his payouts. Use positive Santo for an account. Use the code SGPN to get a 100% match up to 1K. Turns and conditions on MyBookie promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Game Podcast. Finish recapping Game 6. Time to move on into Game 7. So this game's taking place on Sunday, a reminder. Thunder are laying 7.5 at home. It was 8.5 and bet down. Over-unders at around 214.5. Saw some movement, though. I see it actually up to 215.5 at the moment, so there has been some money on the over. Now, for this game, we know the Thunder did lose Game 1 at home, and a game they should have won. Thunder have lost 2 home games the entire postseason. Both games were choke jobs in the fourth quarter, so they have been pretty dominant at home for the entire postseason. Indiana, though, has proven in every series they are no slouch on the road. They can go into hostile environments and win in a variety of ways. For the game itself, though, I want to start off with the spread. Even though the Thunder are great at home, and even though the Thunder were bigger favorites in other home games in this series, Game 7, things get weird in Game 7. And the Thunder have been in a Game 7 before, as they beat the Nuggets by what felt like 90 points. The Pacers have not been in a Game 7 yet, as the most games they went to was 6, and they were able to, once again, win their series against the Knicks in 6 games. I'll ask you for this one. First of all, do you think the Thunder's experience in Game 7 matters at all, or do you think it doesn't matter whatsoever?
I'm not really an experienced person, like I don't, or like the experience and you thing. I hated that narrative.
I agree with you, by the way, but I have to throw it out there.
I don't really like that. I mean, I don't think it matters a ton to two teams in the NBA Finals. I mean, I don't think it matters a ton in a lot of things for reasons that we can talk about like later on. But I mean, I just feel like this is a perfect spot for OKC to bounce back. I mean, we saw it time and time again in this series and the series before. Like, they've shown the ability to be resilient, and to have that game in their back pocket to play as poorly as they did in Game 6. And technically, like, for that first quarter and, maybe like 5 minutes into the second quarter, like, they were right there. They just, like, they got TJ McConnell at the end of the day. Like, he came in and he just boosted that energy. The building was on fire, and then it kind of just got away from him. So, again, when I'm looking at the series, I think that the Pacers have played, obviously, the best game that they played was Game 4 up until the end of the game. Other than that, they played well in pockets of the game, and not specifically. They haven't done anything to make me feel like, oh, yeah, well, they've kind of, quote unquote, figured the Thunder out, or they found something. So I think the Thunder at home will bounce back. I think they win in a big way. I think it's similar to what we saw with the Denver series, with the Denver Game 7. I believe that they'll come out. I think Shea will be much better. He's been horrible in the past, like, game and a half. Obviously, the role players have to step up. They'll do a better job defending TJ, I think so. They'll probably have to, like, they're giving him too much space, and they're giving him that runway to kind of get in and spin around and do such things. So I think they have to cut that off. I'm going to be honest. When he comes in the game, I would put, like, Caruso on him. I'm not playing any games. Caruso or Dort, you have to guard this guy. Carlisle had, a lineup where he played Tyrese and TJ at the same time for extended periods of time. He generally doesn't do that, but that was really effective to get that second quarter run started. Uncharacteristic turnovers by the Thunder, I think that'll be cleaned up as well. The Pacers didn't turn the ball over, which is what you have to do to even give yourself a chance against OKC. But in this environment, big game, I think Shea shows up and has a monster game. I like the Thunder to roll here. But credit to the Pacers, man. Win or lose, I mean, they've been incredible in this series, in this playoffs, and man, they proved everybody wrong, win or lose. But I like the Thunder in the game. I think they win, by. I think I'll be laying all numbers for the Thunder. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, so I'll start off with the experience argument, which is pretty funny because the Thunder are one of the younger teams in the league. So I do find that kind of funny in itself. But I'm not a fan of it either. For an argument, I think it's insane from a Game 7 perspective, because the argument would then be the Pacers were not intimidated the first 6 games, but suddenly in a Game 7 they're going to forget how to play basketball.
Right,
like, I just don't believe in that narrative, but that's going to be talked about by people. And I don't think the Thunder's Game 7 experience against Denver means anything, because Denver was a dead team walking.
Right.
They were out of bodies at that point, and OKC rolled them from the second quarter onward. So I'm not going to read much into it from an experience perspective, but I do think there's an experience question with the coaches, and I think Carlisle has an edge. Now, Carlisle, when he beat Miami back with the Mavericks, that was not a Game 7, that was a Game 6, but still, I know Carlisle does have a pretty good pulse on his team, and he knows when to throw certain lineups out there, when to bench certain people, when to really just try to turn the game on its head, and when he tries to change his overall game plan to try to keep OKC off balanced. Daigneault, I know that they're tied 3-3, and if they win the finals, nobody cares. Do you think Daigneault's had a good series? Because I really don't think he has. I think he's been okay.
I think he's had good moments.
I think Carlisle's been better for the majority of the series.
But to his credit, Carlisle's a damn good coach. Like,
yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a damn good.
Well, that's the point, though. I'm not saying Daigneault's a bad coach now.
I agree.
If Carlisle's the better coach in this matchup, in theory, there would be an advantage towards an NBA champion head coach over a young guy trying to win his first ever title in the biggest coaching game of his career, in theory.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but if I got two of the top three players.
I'm just saying, for experience, I care more about the coach experience than the player experience.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I don't really care about either, to be honest. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, obviously, but I don't really.
It might not matter. I just think the experience argument works better if you're factoring in the coaches and how little experience one coach has compared to the other coach, who, if he wins this game, might become a top 3, top 4 coach of all time. So we'll see. Narrative-wise, he'll be up there. He'll be an all-time coach. You could argue that he already is, but if Carlisle wins with the Mavericks and the Pacers, I think the narratives will put him up in some pretty high coaching conversations.
Yeah, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame right now, regardless.
He's Hall of Famer anyway, but in terms of either the basketball streets or just in terms of reputation, damn, he's going to be talked about. He's going to be immortalized if he wins this game with Indiana.
Yeah, he's damn good, man.
So something to keep in mind there, but I think I am going to disagree with you a bit about the alt spreads and everything like that. The Pacers, maybe it's because I picked the Thunder in Game 6 and they proved me completely wrong. Indiana's a team that every time you pick against them, you, in hindsight, feel like a moron.
Yeah.
And every time I've tried to say that it's over for this team, they come back and they pull together another great effort. And we saw last year in Game 7 against the Knicks, they had the highest field goal percentage of all time in a Game 7. Either it's devil magic, I don't know what the hell's going on. The Pacers find ways to not only respond to adversity, but thrive in adversity. And the Thunder might win this game. I think it's close either way. The Thunder have had issues over the course of this series of pulling away. They've had some great halves. They've been up double digits a couple of times. And you look up and Indiana's down 3. You don't know how they got there.
I agree with that.
They should be down 15. Yeah. You look up and Indiana goes on a random third quarter run and the game is suddenly close for no reason, even though OKC dominated about 80% of the game.
Yep.
My concern is the Thunder will get off to a good start, and then there's going to be a lapse there in concentration, and the Pacers come back and make the game a war. I think no matter who wins this game, I think it is close, so I disagree with your alt spreads. I think for the sake of picking a side, I'm rooting for Indiana, for the record, just for the sake of the underdog story and the improbability of this run. I think I have to root for Indiana as just a basketball fan. Nothing against the Thunder. They're a very good team. They're going to be around for a long time. But a part of me does hope Indiana pulls this off. I think it'll be close. I think I'm going to go with OKC to win. But I think I'd rather go OKC 1-10. I'm not interested in alt spreads for this game because I don't really trust OKC to bring it for a full 48. I hope they can, but they've kind of let Indiana hang around.
Yeah.
And I do think OKC, if the three-point shooting's not there, the Chet Hartenstein minutes are not very good. The offense has gotten quite stagnant at times, and the Pacers' defense has been really good in the series.
Sure.
And we talk a lot about the Thunder because they force a bunch of turnovers. They're an elite all-time defense. The Pacers' defense has been a lot closer in terms of effectiveness to the Thunder's defense in the series, as you might have thought. So based on that, I actually like the Pacers plus the points. I think it'll be close. I'll pick OKC in the crowd environment, but I'll put it this way. If Indiana won this game, I would be less shocked than other people, and I do think that the Pacers will be there at the end. I'm picking the Thunder to win. I do think they'll respond at home, but I do want to point out that I'm not picking the Thunder, who have not really had a dominant performance besides Game 2, to suddenly just show up and because game 5 they dominated, but then Indiana was still down 3 late third quarter, and you don't really know how that happened. So Indiana, I think, will find a way, like they always do, to hang in there, survive a potential bad start, and find themselves in the thick of it at the end. I think they'll fall short. I think it'll be a great effort. I think it'll be a great game, actually. But I'm going to go with the Thunder to win, but the Pacers to cover. Give me Thunder 1-10. The total's interesting because it's a Game 7. The unders have not been as good in Game 7 this year as you might have thought, but
Mm-hmm.
we saw the under cash in Game 6, misleading. It was garbage time for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to factor that in too much, but I can see either offense looking really bad for different portions of this matchup. You like the over or the under?
I like under. I think the Thunder's defensive intensity will be like ratcheted up to another level, especially with that crowd behind him. I do think the Pacers' offense will be forced to play in the half court a little bit more, and that is not where they thrive at, especially with Tyrese not being 100%. So I would expect, and I thought another thing that I thought the Thunder were, doing a lot of like Tyrese. They were hunting Tyrese a little bit too much. It kind of got them out of the flow of their offense. Again, that's where that stagnant talk comes in that you were talking about with the offense, where it's just Shea, 15, 20 seconds off the shot clock, and then generally he makes it. But I thought they were a little bit too much like hunt heavy Boston Celtics style. So I believe that they'll force the Pacers into some turnovers. They'll score off of those turnovers, but I don't think the Pacers will be able to score a ton here. I think the Pacers team total under is a good bet as well. And like I said, the way I'm envisioning the game is that it gets away maybe like, so here's how I look at it. I think that the Thunder are going to get a lot more calls because in Indiana, they haven't been getting the regular calls that they normally get. Now, the officiating has been, like up and down over the last 2 games.
It's very inconsistent, the entire series.
Exactly. That's the word I was looking for, inconsistent. But through the first 3 games, it was called fairly, tight. So what I think is going to happen is Dagnall's going to put Shea more off ball like he did in the second quarter whenever they cut the lead before Indiana went on that run. And Nembhard's going to get into foul trouble. And once Nembhard picks up early foul, then he picks up another one, late first, early second. That's going to force Indiana to play, Mathurin or TJ a little bit more than what they want to. And then that's when OKC is going to kind of like start coasting ahead, and then they'll get to 13 to 15 by half. Then you'll have to take Indiana's first punch, and then they'll take that punch, and then they'll extend to 17, 18. I think that's where it kind of ends up at. So that's how I envision the game. I don't think the Pacers will do a ton of scoring. I think OKC will do a majority of the scoring. So I'm trusting OKC's defense to really lock in because they were horrible last game. They were absolutely horrible last game. And like you said, they can win without making threes. They can win without having, these guys have, like 10 points for – they can win without having a good bench performance.
But the defense has to be there.
The defense has to be elite. The Indiana Pacers, they cannot win without all of those guys contributing at the level that they've been contributing at. That's been proven. Like, it doesn't matter if I think the game that Pascal was scoring all those points, they barely hung on. And they have to have even kill effort. And I don't think the Thunder are going to allow that to happen. So I'm looking at the under. Long-winded answer. Saying I'm looking at the under.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about? Or should we
that's
go on
it.
into the lock and dog?
Yeah, we can go into the lock and dog.
All right. So before we get into the actual lock and dog for Game 7, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, because if you want to try Underdog Fantasy, hopefully you jumped in on the extender bonus because you got the max bonus because it is Game 7. Hop in Game 1. The longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus gets. And a reminder, when you sign up for a new account, use the code NBSGPN to get a special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $1K in bonus cash. Our fantasy promo code NBASGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, because you've heard about Rhythm before. This dropped a game-changing feature called Power Trends. Add detected patterns. Rhythm's models have consistently have a high ROI. Power Trends are updated daily, exclusive to Rhythm. No touts, no noise, just clean data back picks. Download the app, check out Power Trends, start betting smarter. And a reminder, they also have a free trial for a week. Check out the free trial by going to sportsgamebox.com/RITHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Mega Podcast. Finished going through the preview of Game 7. Time to move on into the lock and dog. Lonte, I'll let you go first. What's going to be your lock and dog picks for the show?
Yeah, so we're going to go OKC heavy, pretty easy. I'm going OKC minus 7.5 for the lock for all the reasons that we just talked about. Interesting game, to say the least. Interesting half. I will say that because the game was over in the first half. So, like, Indiana played probably the best half of basketball that I've seen any team play this postseason, outside of maybe, Cleveland, Miami, which doesn't really count. But, yeah, I think OKC bounces back as they have been all year, all playoff, especially at home with that crowd behind them. So minus 7.5 for the lock. Dog-wise, I'm going to go Shea. I mean, it's a shame you can't get more than 3-1, but Shea, 40-plus points, 3-1. He was horrible, forcing shots. He was pressing a little bit. He's taking some uncharacteristic shots, wasn't getting into rhythm. Whenever he did slow down and get his game going, when Dak not moving off ball, he was a little bit more effective. But I think you'll see a smooth 40-point game. I'm thinking we can get 15 of 21 from the field, and then he'll do the rest from the line. So I like Shea 40+ points at 3-1.
Okay. For my lock, I'm going to go for a player fade because why not? It's only fitting if I've roasted him the entire series and he either dominates Game 7 and shows up for once or he stinks once again. Give me Miles Turner under on his 18.5 PRA. It's -105. He's at a less than 17 in 3 of the last 4 games. He had 4 rebounds last game. We know that he never rebounds the damn ball. The assists are not there either. The shot's been terrible. And if he looks that bad in the entire series, I can't imagine him having a great game in Game 7 in OKC. I'll fade Miles Turner. Give me Miles Turner under the 18.5 PRA as my lock at -105. For my dog, I think I was going to go for a defensive prop, actually. The question was, did I want to go for a Siakam play or a McConnell play? And I think I'm going to go with McConnell because I gave this out on the Mothership show, and it was plus 280, and it cashed easily. Give me McConnell over 1.5 steals. Plus 280? He's had at least 2 steals in 4 of the last 5 games. He had 4 steals last game. The guy's a menace on defense. He applies pressure. He steals inbound passes. He has active hands. Does everything you need to. And, of course, McConnell's been my guy the entire postseason. Made me a ton of money. I'll back him one more time. Give me TJ McConnell over 1.5 steals at plus 280 as my dog for the podcast. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the lock and dog. Time for the underdog entry. Lonte, do you want to run back Miles Turner fading, or do you have faith in Miles Turner?
No, I don't have faith in Miles Turner. I think I actually think Chet will play well, but I don't really have faith in Miles Turner. I think he was in the game late because they were trying to get his rhythm going to kind of
it didn't work at all.
Yeah, it did.
No, it didn't work at all.
It did, but I got what they were trying to do, but it just didn't work. So yeah, I'm all with you for that fade of Miles Turner.
Yeah, so we'll start off there. I like Siakam higher blocks. He's actually been very good at blocking shots.
I mean, you can convince me of anything with Siakam, man. I mean, if they win this game, he should be the landslide Finals MVP.
Well, I agree with that, but unfortunately, I don't see Underdog having a line for his blocks, so I think I actually can't do that. I like it as a prop. He's actually gone over half a block in every game of the series, and it's at -114. Yeah. So something to consider there. Looking quickly if there's any other stuff, I'm gonna throw out an idea here. Do you want Chet lower half a double-double?
No. I mean, I don't personally because I think he'll play well.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think he'll play well. I like Caruso PRA higher. You know how many points he scored since he scored at 20 points in game 4?
What is it, like 3?
2.
Okay.
But he's going to be good at home. I think they're going to lean. Like I said, I believe that they'll lean more on him than they will Hartenstein, so he'll be on the court 30+ minutes if they need him. But
I am going to push back a little bit, though, because the rebounds and the assists have not been there. So it'd kind of be Caruso points, if anything.
Okay, that's fine.
But I don't really want the rebounds and assists attached to it.
Yeah, that's fine. What is his points at?
It's at 8.5.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Looking at his numbers at home in this series.
He hit a few threes.
11, 20, and then he had 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to play a bunch of minutes because they need him out there.
Yeah, that's 11. That's about 11 points a game. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I feel like backing the guy with a ring to show up in Game 7 could work out. So I don't mind Caruso, higher on his points there at 8.5. And for the last option, what do we want to go with here? So you think they're going to pull Case and Wallace's minutes, right?
Yeah, I don't think he'll play a ton. I don't think Hartenstein will play a ton. I think it'll be a rotation of the starting 5. Well, actually, I don't think that Hartenstein starts. I think Caruso starts. So I think you'll see that. I think you'll see that core 5. You'll see Wiggins. You'll see Joe. Maybe some Hartenstein stuff if they bring in Bradley, like Bryant. Like I know Bryant hasn't played a ton, but maybe a little bit of Hartenstein. 5 or 6 minutes. I don't think you see a ton of Queso or Hartenstein.
Yeah, so I am going to pitch to you a Case and Wallace lower 8.5 PRA.
I'm cool.
Okay, so we'll go with that as well. So for the 3-pick entry here for the last underdog entry of the NBA season, we are going to go with Miles Turner lower, 18.5 PRA. We'll go with Caruso higher, 8.5 points, and Cason Wallace lower, 8.5 PRA. That's going to wrap it up for the season of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Now, a reminder that after the finals actually conclude, no matter who wins, we'll have another episode with a Game 7 recap, and we'll also get into the early look at the futures for next year. We'll have some all-season episodes too. NBA draft probably. We'll look into some trade stuff. There might be a bunch of trades, so keep that in mind. Might be having some off-season episodes as well. But Lonte, anything else you want to say? Because it is the final game preview episode of the season.
Yeah, man, I don't. But thanks everybody for listening this year. I mean, obviously we'll be back, but just grind it out another season, man. Another successful season. I thought we did a great job. So looking forward to the off season.
Yep, definitely true. Not looking forward to the off season, but because I prefer games. But either way,
oh yeah.
Point is, it should be interesting. Unfortunately, my team sucks, so the Nets are just chilling. We're going to see what happens with them. But either way, it's been a fun season. Thank you for tuning in, either from the beginning of the season or if you joined midway through. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. We'll be back once again at some point. I'd probably say early next week for that Game 7 recap onward. So maybe we'll aim for Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. But either way, until next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Find him on Twitter at XXLonteXX. And also a reminder that Terrell's still on the show. We're doing WNBA shows as well. So if you want some basketball, check out the W. We should be, I'd say, taking over that 11 a.m. normal record time because why not? So keep an eye out for WNBA shows in the morning. But until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.
Basketball, give me.